Pick something groovy, Alex.
Good evening and welcome to the Democratic Voice. Thank you for tuning in this evening. We certainly appreciate you being with us, and we want to thank all the servicemen and women worldwide for their service to America. We want to thank the first responders for all they're doing to keep us safe here in America. Again, thank you for being with us this evening, and you might wonder why I'm wearing this funny looking hat. Well, last week or so, the Ohio Buckeyes played the University of Texas, and the Buckeyes won. So therefore, our guest this evening forced me to wear this Texas hat. So that's the reason I'm wearing it. Looking good though, isn't it? I really like that. So thanks. Now, if you have questions or anything you'd like to talk about with the Democratic Voice, just please give us a call and we'll sit down and either get your story on the air or find an answer for you. This evening we have visiting with us Ernie Prasbala, and Ernie is one of those things that we don't get to meet very often. He is one of those unaffiliated voters, and one of the things that I'll be asking and visiting with Ernie about is why he chose to do those things, how he perceives Democrats, how he perceives Republicans, because we have to, as Democrats, must reach out and reach those unaffiliated voters. But first, let's talk about football, and let's say welcome, Ernie, to the show. We certainly appreciate you being with us and making me wear this good-looking hat. And Ralph Cramden, you certainly look good in that hat. Tell us about Ernie. That's the first thing I want to know about. Tell us about you. What have you done in life? How you got here?
Ernie was born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio. Attended The Ohio State University while Woody Hayes was head coach. I graduated in '69, so I had the opportunity to see the '68 team win the national championship in a victory over Southern Cal and O.J. Simpson. Once you're a Buckeye, you're a lifetime Buckeye. There's no getting around it. No one understands me except my fellow Buckeyes. This past May, I went back to school for our 30-something reunion of ROTC cadets. We're a lot older than what we were with that. I remember when we drilled on campus and represented the university on the Pershing Rifles drill team. Served 20 years on active duty as a field artillery commissioned officer. I've been to Fort Sill on numerous occasions, 2 trips to Germany, and 2 trips in the Pacific, one to Vietnam and the second to Okinawa. Retired in '89 after finishing off a 20-year career at Fort Carson. And politically, born and raised as a Democrat in Cleveland. But during my military career, I decided not to go ahead and affiliate with any one party, but I did vote in every election. I believe in the democratic process, and as an American citizen who has fought as a service member for our rights and privileges, I feel it's important to be active as a voter. The reason I have elected to stay as independent is that I'm not convinced that any one party has all the answers. I believe when this country was founded, we had folks from the New England states and the southern states. They were able to compromise and come up with our form of government. I wish those same principles held true today instead of the polarization that I see in the parties.
Wow, he sounded just like a politician. He went right out into politics. Let's get back to sports and talk about these football games. Even though we're reaching out to you as an unaffiliated. Now, you like football, I see. What are some of the things that you think should be changed in our sports programs on the amateur level?
At the collegiate level, I know it's big business. I could sit here and root for my team, and I would like them to win. I realize that that's not always possible. I like what Coach Tressel is doing with the Buckeyes. Not only does he recruit young players from the high school ranks, he feels his job is to let them grow up as young athletes into mature citizens. Part of his program at the university, he makes the players spend some time in the community doing community service. He realizes that not all of the players will go on to the next level. Therefore, he feels an obligation to go ahead and prepare them to be productive citizens in this society. Sure, he makes them come to practice. We've had some failures. Young Mr. Claret is a perfect example of a young man who made some decisions that didn't reflect well upon the university, nor himself. I really feel bad for him, but there are others who have played at the university and have done well. When I was at school, Ernie, who was a defensive back, and Don Ungerford, the quarterback, both went on to med school. The 2002 championship quarterback, Greg Krenzel, was a pre-med major with a 3.6 cumulative average as a molecular genetics student. So you can have bright, intelligent young people playing at the collegiate level. But the majority of them are just going to go on, get a degree, and that's what Woody Hayes really stressed when I was there. He would call back players, make sure that they came back to the university. My freshman year, I saw Paul Warfield back on campus. He had finished his rookie season with the Browns, but he was back on campus finishing up his degree. Because Woody and both Coach Tressel feel that you need that education to go on in life. It'll be far more valuable to you as a member of society than any accomplishments on the gridiron.
Amen. Yes. You know, that's what more colleges should be interested in, and is the athletes and their grade point average, and making sure that they complete and get a degree. Because being a professional, it's like anything else. There's very, very few that go to college players and make it on to the professionals. So take it to heart when when Ernie says, go get a degree. It doesn't matter if you go to Ohio State. We'd like for everyone to go to Ohio State or the University of Texas system, whichever they like, but go to whatever school is available to you. And if it's community college where you want to start, great. Wherever you want to go, just get that piece of paper. It will make you a better person with more earning power in the future. Now let's turn to politics for a moment, if we may. And of course, we have our great Bill Ritter is running for governor and doing a very good job. But we'll ask Ernie some of the questions that I have in mind, and I'll just throw out words and see what his response to those words are.
Okay, Fred, I'm ready.
When we say Republican to you, what comes to mind?
Fiscally conservative, business oriented, and the party of Lincoln.
Okay. When we say the word Democrat, what comes to your mind?
Used to be conservative, labor oriented, and socially active.
Okay. When we say conservative to you, what comes to your mind?
Middle of the road, someone who thinks out the situation, analyzes the pluses and the minuses, and willing to make some compromises to get to the middle and a solution.
Okay, that's conservative. Okay, what when we say the word liberal to you, what does that mean?
More far thinking. Sometimes when I say radical, I mean new thoughts that they bring into the process. More favor in making change, sometimes dramatic change. That could be bad and that could be good.
Okay. If I said to you, I am a fiscal conservative, and when it came to a social liberal, what would you perceive me as being?
Fiscal conservative is someone who is conscious about the budget, would not try to overspend, would stay within the money that's available or appropriated. Liberal in society, willing to offer programs to assist those in need, but sometimes those programs go too long and too far.
Okay, very good. And as I promised Ernie this evening, we just want his opinion on how everyone is perceived. That way we as Democrats can learn things and how people perceive us. Oftentimes we might perceive ourselves in one direction while the unaffiliated perceive us in another direction. If I said to you, Ernie, what's most important in El Paso County, water or gas?
Water. With the population, the dry climate we have here, if we expect further growth in the community, we're going to have to do the right things to make sure there's plenty of water for the inhabitants.
Okay. What if we said, Ernie, how do you feel about staying in Iraq or getting out of Iraq?
As a retired officer, I feel what the commander-in-chief is doing is acceptable. It may not have been the perfect decision in everything we have done there, but I support our soldiers, sailors, airmen and women who are serving over there. The Iraqi people, not only from what I have seen in the news and on television, but I've been to ceremonies with the 3rd Armored Cav here in Colorado, and the mayor from the town in which my son-in-law was in told the members of the regiment and the visitors of how appreciative he and the Iraqi people are for what the Americans are doing to free them from the dictatorship of Saddam Hussein and liberating them and allow them to exercise the democratic process.
Okay. If I mentioned the draft, should we have the draft to serve America or not?
Since I grew up in the draft era, I would like to see it back. I feel every American owes time to their country. I would accept those who spend time in the Peace Corps as an equal part. They don't necessarily have to be in uniform, but do some minimum service. 2 years, I think, is acceptable for every American, male and female.
Whew. Okay. Let's talk about compensation to the military. Do you think the military, compared to their civilian counterparts, are compensated adequately?
They're compensated better than they have been. But when I look at what happened just 5 years ago at 9/11. Those survivors of the victims were paid millions of dollars. A service member, loss of life, maybe the family will get lifetime medical commissary privileges. They'll get a insurance policy payout, but that's it. I don't think that the civilians that were in the tower are any more valuable than our service members. I think our service members are doing a much more difficult and dangerous job. They should be better compensated than they are currently.
Okay. So when we talk about the redistricting and things that happen getting away from the military just a wee bit, and to back up on that, I would like to say, I think what I heard Ernie say is that he would like to see a draft so every American would have the opportunity to serve America and learn, many young people, the things that are necessary to be good citizens in our country. And I saw also, I was back in during the draft time, Ernie, and we got a good cross section of America at that time from the not the super rich. Some of the super rich, their fathers knew how to get them out of it. But on the other side, it was a pretty good cross section of America serving.
The first unit I was in, our battery clerk was a journalism graduate from Brown University. So he kept both the battery commander and the lieutenants in line every time we wrote a report to make sure our English and punctuation was correct. You don't see that as much today, where you get college graduates in the enlisted ranks, but I think it's necessary. The reason I say why I'm in favor of the draft is that every young American should do something for the country, whether it's military service, a social service, a international service. I believe that that's part of the privilege of being an American, and we ought to pay back to others and show them the opportunities we have and how we appreciate other cultures and communities.
Yes, we certainly learned lots of things by serving in Korea and Vietnam and Germany and all the places that you and I had the opportunity paid for by the government to go see. If you use it in that context, I didn't like the travel methods many times, but going turret class is sometimes better than no class at all. But
all my overseas assignments, it was on a jet plane. So we thought about on our return from Germany to go by ship, but it was already winter, and we didn't want to go ahead and freeze in the North Atlantic.
The new soldiers are certainly spoiled, aren't they? One of those troop ships is the best thing that soldiers should ride, at least one troop ship, to really appreciate those jet airplanes. But so what do you think about development in El Paso County as far as the water supplies, and how do you think we should get more water into El Paso County?
I'm not an engineer, so I really don't have a solution for them. But those who are responsible for the planning have to take a look at how much growth we can sustain based upon the water that's available. Mother Nature has been good to us here with the mountains and the snowpack, but it can only support a limited amount of population. And they being the government and civil authority, have to go ahead and determine what is that growth rate that we can sustain. As we keep losing agricultural land, as the community grows further east, we require more water, not only for families, for bathing and recreation, but even our lawns. All right, so that complete thought process has to be worked out with many agencies in order to maintain the quality of life we like here in Colorado Springs.
Okay, so water is on top of your list as far as priorities. How about the price of gasoline? Where does that stack up on your list of priorities?
From what I see, I believe that the price that we're paying for gas may be inflated due to the oil companies bidding higher to ensure they have a supply. The actual cost may be able to be lower. We're seeing today that the lowest I've seen is $2.74 a gallon, as compared to over $3 just 3 months ago.
Just 3 weeks ago, I couldn't believe the prices. We must be getting closer to election as the price comes down, you know. It's so many things. It's manipulated when the petroleum companies' largest profit level in history, and we wonder why the prices are up sometimes. But so how do you feel about the working people of El Paso County? Overpaid, underpaid, need to do more, less? What do we need to do on that, Ernie?
The blue collar workers in this state seem to, this community in particular, may be somewhat underpaid. A large reason for that is many folks feel with the large retired population that's here, they don't need to make as much in order to live. And that somewhat keeps wages down in this part of the county. Overall, I guess a starting job in many locations is somewhere between 10 and 10.50 an hour. That barely meets requirements for most people. When you look at single parents trying to raise a family at that wage, it's a struggle.
Just almost impossible, isn't it? So that's how you feel about the working people, and I think that's great. Now, let me ask you a question. We in El Paso County hear lots about the religious far right and the far left and things like that. When you talk about how do you feel about the religious far right and the left?
I believe as an American, we have the right to worship as we please. I'm not a great campaigner for any particular religion. The faith I grew up in, I believe in and follow, but I don't try to force those beliefs on anyone else. One of the interesting things when I was in college was the first time I was not in a parochial education system. And so I was interested in learning about how other faiths practiced their faith and why they did the things that they did. That was probably one of the intrinsic values I learned in dormitory life on a college campus. And then by being in the service and traveling around the world, looking at other religions and faith have been an eye-opener for me. So I'm more international or cosmopolitan in my outlook on life and in my faith. I know that the Europeans have different customs and traditions with the same faith that I have. My personality is more conservative. I would have loved to have the same things still continue today that were in my childhood. No matter where I would go to church, the language was the same. When the Vatican Council changed it to you can say the services in local language, it's great if you know the language, all right? It was great in America, but if you went to France or to Germany or to Vietnam, didn't understand what was going on. So I felt a little bit out of it. I don't travel as much now that I'm living here and retired. So the English language is all right.
Okay. Ernie, that's one of the best explanations I've heard of. And from listening to all those things, you'd probably grow to believe that Ernie possibly could be Catholic. And we in the Baptist faith, we don't have to worry about that because you either speak with a Southern drawl or you aren't a good Baptist. Or excuse me, you ain't a good Baptist. So it's one of those things, Ernie, that you have to get used to. And you're right, pushing your religion on anybody, to me, I think is not good. You know, living it is one thing, and
Yes.
pushing it on to someone else. If you live a good life, people will most assuredly see that and try to emulate you. But other than that, no.
I look at my two grandmothers. My dad's mother was very religious, in sodalities, in church on Sunday and during the week. My mom's mother, on the other hand, rarely went. But both ladies lived a good life. Before my mom's mother died, all of her girlfriends said, I've got to go see Annie, because while she was living, they used to say some things about her that were not complimentary. But before they left this earth, they had to apologize to her. And there are times when I've seen my mom's mom have nothing but two pieces of bologna left. A stray dog walks by, she'd feed the dog instead of herself. and you know, you look at, does going to church necessarily mean you're a good religious person? Probably not. All right. It's the type of life you lead, how you work and live with people are more important than the number of times you go to any particular structure to practice your religion.
Well, you know, I can certainly agree on that. I think some people will go to church just so they'll be seen, you know, and wear their fine clothes and all that, get all the bling bling on and all that good stuff. But you and I can certainly agree on that. Ernie, one thing that you haven't told us and that you'd like to tell us, what is it?
I'm proud to be an American. I enjoy living here in Colorado Springs. The reason I decided to come back here was in '60, I was with the Boy Scouts in their National Jamboree on the north end of town. I'd wake up, I'd see Pikes Peak in the Air Force Academy Chapel, and I said, I just want to come back here. And I just enjoy living here.
Ernie, I certainly appreciate you being with us. And you sound just like a Democrat, Ernie. I don't know how you can be over in that unaffiliated column, but I hope you as Democrats have learned some of the things that we must reach out and get our brethren in so they can be working toward the same goals that we are, and that's a better America for everyone. Thank you for tuning in this evening. Give us a call and tell us what you would like to talk about on this show, because it's your show. Have a good evening.